Okay, perfect. The session is now recording. Good morning again, and welcome to the Research Capacity Development Unit at the University of Johannesburg. My name is Lawrence, and I am delighted to be your moderator for today's workshop. And most importantly, I would like to start off by thanking all the attendees for taking the time to join, and also thanking our facilitator, Ms. Peters Rana, for taking her time to prepare this presentation and honoring our invite here at the RCD unit. Before introducing Ms. Peters McKay to you, I would like to go over a few housekeeping rules, of which I'd like to think most of the attendees are aware of. If you do have any questions during the session, please raise your virtual hands or indicate please raise your virtual hand, or if you do not wish to speak, please type in the chat box and I will indicate to the presenter to address your question. And as I've stated in the beginning, that this session will be recorded and the presentation slides will be requested from our presenter, and all that will be posted on our model communities by the end of this week. And please kindly note that I'll also be sharing a feedback survey in the chat session. So I would kindly ask all the attendees to kindly please fill in this feedback survey, and also to provide kind words to our facilitator for her hard work. And also please note that by filling this feedback survey, you also ensure that you will get a certificate of attendance for this particular workshop. And also, please I just wanted to let everybody know that we have launched what we call our RCD-MS, which is the Research Capacity Development Management System. So this is a management system that we use to streamline our workshops, seminars, and competitions going forward. So I would just want to ask all the attendees that if you haven't signed up on our RCD-MS, please you can also send us an email at RCD Inquiries, and we'll be able to assist you. And as you've seen that on the slide that I was sharing, there was a slide which indicated the RCDMS system, which is the system that we'll be using as we'll be moving away from Teams to using this system for our workshops, seminars, and all the events that are hosted by the Research Capacity Development Unit. So without any waste of time, please allow me to read over Ms. Peters McKay's bio. Um, Ms. Rihanna Peters McKay serves as a senior faculty officer for the postgraduate studies, covering both master's and PhD programs at the Faculty of Sciences at the University of Johannesburg. Ms. Peters McKay has held this position since 2016, bringing nearly a decade of experience in supporting postgraduate students in academic administration. She is also a proud University of Johannesburg graduate, holding a master's degree in law. Her commitment to academic excellence and student success continues to make a meaningful impact within the faculty. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Ms. Rihanna Peters McKay. You may proceed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Thank you, everybody, and good morning and welcome to everyone. As Lawrence has mentioned, I am Rihanna and I'm responsible for the postgraduate studies, at the Faculty of Health Sciences for masters and masters and PhD students. I'll then start my presentation. Then please let me know that you guys can see.
Yes, I can see your screen. Please, the participants, can you just indicate with a thumbs up? Yes, I can see all the thumbs up. I think we can all see your screen. You may proceed. Thank you.
Perfect. So I'm responsible for the complete student lifestyle life. Excuse me. I'm responsible for the student life cycle from applications up until completion, which is the graduations. With applications, all students, new and continuing, will apply, or new students, sorry, apply online at www.uj.ac.za. Those applications are then sift through and work through by our Student Enrollment Center, and they will then route those applications through to the faculty. Once the faculty has received those applications, we then process those applications to ensure that students meet the minimum requirements as stipulated in our yearbooks. Once we've checked and we can verify that students have met those requirements, we then process it and route it onto our departments. Each department has a committee or a selection committee that is responsible for processing applications. They will then they will then go through the applications, ensuring students meet the minimum requirements, and based off the documentation students send us, as it's a requirement now that students send a summary of what they proposed, a proposed research summary. They will then determine if they do have supervisory capacity, and based off that they'll make a selection. And once the selection is made, the department will then route the application back to faculty. We will then put a status, whether it be accepted, conditional acceptance, declined, and communication will then be sent out. Central communication is sent out to students, depending obviously on the status that is added by faculty. With our international students, we do require that international students submit a SACWA evaluation in order for departments to process their applications. The next step is registrations. Once students have been accepted, they are now required to register. All registrations for returning and new students is done online via the ULink portal. Students who have not registered are communicated with weekly to inform them on the dates for registration and the closing dates for registration. With international students, you sometimes have international students that don't come into the country where their research would be based in their country. They would then complete an out of seat form, which is then signed and sent to the international office to ensure that the international office then gives them clearance for them to continue with their studies. With regards to pre-registration, it's not always an option that faculties use, but in the event that a faculty does not meet the enrollment targets, then we will consider pre-registration, but that is obviously based off approval from the registrar and then approval from the dean once pre-registration is accepted. Pre-registrations are, the minimum for pre-registrations is 6 months. Then with regards to the PG administration, once you've registered as a student, yourself and your supervisor will sign a student supervisor agreement. That is basically an agreement that is signed to ensure that you will uphold your side in terms of your research, and your supervisor will uphold their side in terms of your research. HODs are then required to provide faculty, which would be myself, with a list of registered students, proposed titles, and proposed supervisors within 6 weeks after registration, so that we can upload that onto the system to avoid any errors on the system going forward. All administrative functions go through our faculty higher degrees, who is responsible for approving things for like proposals, approving nomination of assessors, approving anything to do with your study or changing your study or your qualification. And then obviously once you've completed, then to approve your final results that has come back from the examiner or the assessor. Within our faculty, all our students' proposals for masters and PhDs are also required to go through our faculty research committee. So once your proposal is approved at the faculty higher degrees committee, it will then be sent through to the faculty research committee, who is then also required to approve your proposal before you start any data collection or proceed with anything regarding your research. What we do to ensure that our students are upholding their side with regards to the student agreement is that every 6 months we have what is called a progress meeting or a global meeting where we go through all our masters and PhDs progress. This progress is basically a report from the supervisor and the student informing the faculty as to where they are in terms of their research. We also rely on this a lot, especially with students that are in their final year, because this gives us an indication of the throughput of our students in their final year. Will we then meet our postgraduate targets, meaning that our students will then move out of the system. All approvals must also go, or let me rather say, approvals with regards to PhDs must go through the Senate Higher Degrees Committee. They approve the research titles as well as the nomination of assessors for PhDs and then the final results for the PhD students. Once it's approved there, then the student can be loaded obviously as a completed or graduate. With regards to assessments, with assessments, when a student is ready to submit, oh, sorry, I'm not sure what happened. Okay, with assessments, as I said, when a student is ready to submit, the student will send their final dissertation or thesis to their supervisor, who will then compile and send through to faculty. Once we have it, we are then able. I see there's a hand.
Hi, Ms. Rihanna. Sorry to interrupt.
No
Lawrence
problem.
just had to step out quickly, so I'm stepping in for him. There
No
is a
problem.
question in the chat if you would like to attend to it now.
Okay, I can attend to it.
Okay. The student is asking who initiates the signing of the supervisor and student agreement.
That would be the supervisor. So when on your first consultation with your supervisor will then present you with the agreement and you will then sign the agreement together with your supervisor.
Okay, thank you. I think the question was answered, but Oswald, if you have a follow-up question, you can just type in the chat box. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll proceed. So with the assessments, once your final documents are ready, your supervisor will send it through to faculty administration. We will then send it out to the examiner. We will send it out to the examiner. Once it's sent to the examiner, we load a code, which is PH, which means possible graduate. The examiner will then read through your thesis or final dissertation. With the examination process, we allow 4 weeks for our minor dissertations, 5 weeks for our full research dissertations, and 6 weeks for a thesis. Since last year, they've introduced oral defenses for PhD students, which now requires PhD students to present their research to their examiners. The examiners, if they need clarity on something, they will get the clarity through the oral defense. And the oral defense normally takes place 2 weeks after the thesis has been sent out for examination. Once we receive the examination reports back from the examiners, they are sent to the supervisors, who will then compile a supervisor report, and that final report is what will serve at our Faculty Higher Degrees Committee, and then after at our Senate Higher Degrees Committee. And once approved at Faculty Higher Degrees and Senate, your marks will be loaded, and then you will then be a graduate of the faculty.
Sorry
No
to
problem.
interrupt again. There is a question from Daniel. Can a student be admitted to a PhD program soon after completing a master's degree?
It depends. So it's all dependent on if your marks have been approved. If they have been approved, you can be accepted into doing your PhD. So with our faculty, what happens is normally that our masters feed into our PhDs and our bachelor degrees feed into our master's degrees. Not to say that we don't take from outside, it's just that it does feed into each other. So once your marks are finalized and approved, you can then be admitted to do your PhD. I hope that answers the question.
Daniel, if you can just give us a thumbs up. Thank you.
Okay. Then with regards to graduation, as I said, once your marks are approved at faculty higher degrees and at the Senate higher degrees, those marks will then be loaded onto the system, and the student will then be given a P7, which is a graduate, or a P8 is a student that has obviously achieved a distinction in the research studies. The P8 allocation, I just want to make known, is that it's only for research, it's only for minor dissertations and research-based masters, because with PhDs, there's no mark allocated to your research study. It's just a pass or a resubmission. There's no actual mark. Once the P7 or P8 is then loaded, we then communicate with the supervisor and the student to inform them that they now need to submit documentation to the faculty to confirm completion. We also ensure that all the titles that have previously been approved and that was on your dissertation or thesis is correct by sending out your approved titles to your supervisors to review. With PhD students, once they've completed, we then request that the supervisor provide us with a laudation, and that laudation will then be part of your graduation or the graduation program, and that will then be read out by your supervisor on the day of the ceremony. The requirement or the graduation requirement for completion of a dissertation or a thesis is that students are required to submit to the faculty their final corrected dissertation or thesis, an article or a final submission, an article, a submitted article or a draft article, the confirmation of corrections form, and the library submission requirement form. And that is just to give the library access or approval to load your thesis or dissertation onto the library repository. And then once that is finalized, the student will then receive an invitation to the ceremony. And that, in a nutshell, is the student life cycle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rana, for this, very insightful and very brief Faculty of Health, Faculty Postgraduate processes. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure the students have really picked up a thing or two on what is needed for in terms of, their research, their registrations, their submission procedures. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you. There are some questions in the chat box. Another question is that, is there an oral proposal presentation?
So we do have a template of what we want your oral presentation to look like, and the way we want you to present it. I hope that is answering your question.
Okay, thank you. I hope you answered there and working. There is another question by McMillan. It says, hi, are PhD students required to undertake tests or exams along study process?
No, you're not required to do any tests or examinations. It's all research based, so there's no test that you'd have to do or any examination. But if you want to call it an examination, the oral defense is part of the examination process.
Perfect. I hope you answered there, McMillan. Another question again. Say, is it possible to make available the important processes on various committees, such as the departmental, faculty, HDC, etc., including due dates for submissions?
So we don't make that available to students, but it is available to their supervisors. And most of our rules and regulations come from the rules and regulations of the institution. So we don't differ from those rules and regulations.
Thank you so much. The last question is it just one article or draft article for a PhD?
So for PhDs, we require two. So one must be submitted and one can be a draft.
Okay. Just reverting back to the question of oral presentation, the person says, I was asking about proposal presentation, not the oral presentation after
Um,
thesis submission, yes.
so what do they mean by that? They don't have to present their proposals to a committee if that's what they're asking.
Okay, I think that's what they're asking.
So they'll
They,
basically just submit their written proposal. That proposal will then serve at the committee, and based off what's in writing, that will then be either approved or conditionally approved or declined, and then with the student is then required to make corrections, and that will then serve again at the committee. But the student doesn't have to appear and present their proposal.
okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Is there any person who would like to make any contributions or ask questions? I've allowed everybody's mic if you wish to speak. So you can just unmute your mic and speak if you want to speak, or if you don't want to chat, sorry, type the question in the chat box. There is another question in the chat. It says, this information is highly appreciated regarding the progress reporting. Is there any communication sent to students who are not progressing?
So after the global meeting, what will happen is that a student will receive a particular result code, and that result code, if it is a result, so the result code will appear on your academic record, and that will indicate where you are with your progress. But if it is a result code that is unsatisfactory, that is then communicated to students, who are then required to appeal to a different committee then.
Thank you so much. Clarifying that questions. Hope you answered. Are there any other questions from the participants? If there's any other questions or any contributions that you'd like to make, or anything that you feel like you don't have any clarification on, please, you may go ahead and type it in the chat box, or you can unmute your mic and speak, so that we can address the questions. Thank you. Please kindly note that I have posted the evaluation link in the chat box to the feedback survey. So I'd like to kindly ask all the participants to fill it in for this workshop. Thank you so much. There's another question. It says, what should be included in the progress reports?
So in your progress report, you'll obviously state where you are in your research, in your data collection, in your data analysis. So all that information must be included in your progress report to give the committee an overview of where exactly you are in your within your studies, so that if this, for instance, is your final year and you are only at data collection, it gives them an understanding to say that either the student will make it by the end of the year or they won't make it by the end of the year. So all that information regarding your research and where you are should be included in a progress report.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for clarifying on that question, Shiana. There is a hand raised by Matsidi So. You may unmute your mic and speak.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the session. It is highly appreciated, I must say. Maybe I must just say that's why I couldn't type it on the chat. I wanted to just say something regarding the issue of progress reporting. To say probably the university can consider, sometimes when you register and probably something comes up and you do not continue. However, you pay the fees for the university for that year, and then you think, I did not have time to actually continue because of whatever reasons that could have stopped you from continuing. One takes it for granted, I must say, and then after some time, 3-4 years, when you go back and you only learn that, by the way, you could have at least done something to inform the university that you are not able to proceed due to whatever reasons. Therefore, you are requesting, I don't know whether they call it abeyance or whatever. One learned these things very late. So hence I was asking regarding the issue of progress to say, probably it would help if the university, when they put up that progress report, actually they could alert the student about what are the possible implications or what does it mean. Because when you go back to university after 3 to 4 years, you think you are going to start afresh, only to find that no, you're really not going to start afresh. You've been registered since 2021, like myself. So I'm saying this just so the university could probably start thinking about how to maybe support the student regarding when it comes to issues of progress reporting, so that they can be aware of the implications as well. Thank you very much for the session once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Matsidi, for that question. I don't know if you'd like to take over there, Ms. Rihanna.
Thank you, Matsadiso. Sorry if I messed up your name a little bit. Your point is noted. It's very important that the student has communication with their supervisor regarding if it is that they want to cancel their studies or take an abeyance or apply for an extension of the studies. That is why the supervisor is there, because the supervisor is basically the middleman between the student and faculty. But your point is noted with regards to making it more visible for students to know the processes around abeyances and what the options are in terms of those.
Okay, that's Matsidi. So there's a thumbs up. Yes, they are answered. She is answered. Thank you so much for clarifying on that question, Ms. Rihanna. I think this was a follow-up question from Aloha Fem. He said, can one include workshops and trainings attended? I think in the progress report.
I think that is actually a good idea, because the library does offer workshops and training sessions. So that would be very important as well, to include it as well, so that we also know what type of training you've received during your studies.
There's another question here by Daniel. He says, is there any research symposium for postgraduate students at the Faculty of Health Science that includes all postgraduate students and showcase their work? If not, are you planning to introduce one?
There is nothing like that. I can always introduce it to our Vice Dean of Research, and it's not a bad idea at all. So I will take that suggestion and I will point it out to him. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from the participants? Indeed, if you would like to raise your hands or make any comment or any contributions, or just clarifying something that you might not have understood well, please kindly raise your hand or please kindly type it in the chat box and it will be addressed. There's a question which says, what is the time frame for completion of studies?
Okay, so for masters, you have a minimum of 1 year and a maximum of 2 years for full-time and 3 years for part-time. And for PhD students, your minimum time is 2 years to complete, and then 4 years for full-time and 5 years for part-time.
So much. Another question as well. It says, can the faculty kindly ensure that the supervisors are aware of the processes and important due dates, please?
We can do that, but as I've said, the supervisors are aware of it. How they communicate with their students, I think that is also important. But supervisors, HODs, supervisors are all aware of it. But I will take that and I will inform the Vice Dean to make it more visible and accessible for supervisors, especially during the faculty management and faculty board.
Mm. You again for clarifying on that question. Any other questions? Any other questions from the participants? For those that joined maybe late, I just wanted to let you know that I did post a feedback survey in the chat session. So please kindly fill it out. And also this feedback survey, this will also ensure that you receive a certificate of attendance by filling it in. And also we use this for our reporting. We use this for our reporting as well. So please kindly note that you also provide some kind words for our facilitator for her hard work. Thank you. If there's any other questions from the participants, please kindly raise your hand or you can type the question in the chat. Okay, here's another question. So are there any bursary scholarship opportunities for postgraduate students?
So through the faculty, the only bursary we offer is the supervisory link bursary, and that is also dependent on whether we receive funds from the university. And the amount we also give to students is dependent on how much we also receive for that particular bursary. I know there is other bursaries, but in particular, the faculty doesn't deal with those bursaries. Those bursaries, I think, is done from the supervisor's side through the PGS office. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the faculty in itself doesn't get, or faculty administration doesn't get involved in those bursaries.
Yes, so the postgraduate fund management is situated here at the Atanya building. They do offer bursaries, so they have internal bursaries and external bursaries. So you can either visit the offices here at the postgraduate school, Atanya building, and you'll be able to consult with our available on-site consultant at the PFM, which is the postgraduate fund management, and they will be able to let you know which bursaries are available, whether external or internal bursaries, and they'll be able to also let you know on the days of which, sorry, on the month or when this bursaries will be open for applications, and also the closing date. So you can either visit our campuses at the postgraduate school, and you will be able to speak to the consultants, and they will be able to assist you. Thank you. Any other question? Is that a question from you, then Malvin? Are you trying to say something? Or it's just, okay, maybe that's just this mic that was, okay, are there any other questions from the participants? You can either raise your hand or you can unmute your mic to speak, or you may type the question in the chat box and your question will be addressed. Thank you. See, there is no questions in the chat box, so I'd like to believe that all the attendees or all the participants here are satisfied with the presentation, that there's no questions at this point. I hope everybody has understood the faculty processes, and everybody now is aware of what needs to be done in terms of the postgraduate processes for masters and PhD students from the Faculty of Health Science. Okay, so in that regard, Ms. Rihanna, I don't see any questions in the chat box, and I don't see any comments or any hands that are raised. In that regard, I would like to once again express our appreciation to the students for participating and the facilitator for honoring our invite. Thank you for your time, your expertise, and for your efforts. We really appreciate for you to come here and just clarify on this postgraduate processes to the students. We really appreciate you for taking your time, in this busy schedule of the academic year. Thank you so much, Ms. Rihanna. We really appreciate you, and thank you so much for supporting the Research Capacity Development Unit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to everyone, and thank you to you guys as well for the opportunity.
Okay, there's a question by Macmillan. Yes, please note that the recording will be available before the end of this week on Moodle. So we will upload the recording plus the presentation slides from Ms. Rihanna as well on Moodle. So they will be available definitely before the end of this week. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll just be saying again the evaluation link in the chat session for those that hasn't filled this, for all that haven't filled it in yet. Okay, thank you so much. And also please to kindly fill out all this kind words on the evaluation form, on the feedback form for our facilitator. Okay, here are just some kind words for you, Ms. Rihanna. It says, thank you so much for the information. It is highly appreciated. Much appreciated. Thank you so much, Ms. Rihanna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again, Ms. Rihanna. Really appreciate you. In that regard, if is there anything else that you'd like to add there, Ms. Rihanna, before we end the session, or any other comments from the participants or the attendees before we can end this session?
Thank you. And to the master's and PhD students, I'm always available on email. I'm more responsive on email, but if you do call me, I do try and assist to the best of my ability. But if you need anything, just pop me an email and I'll respond to you.
Do you mind if we share your email via in the chat?
Not at all. No problem at all.
Okay, so I will just post her email address for everyone in the chat. Okay, that's her email address so that everybody can have it. If you do have any follow-up questions that you'd like to ask or anything that you may feel that you need clarification on, that's her email address there. You can just pop her an email and definitely she will be able to assist on that. So in that regard, again, once again, I'd like to express our appreciation to you, Ms. Rihanna, and all the attendees. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much, and hope you have a great day further. Thank you so much, and I will now be ending this session. Thank you, and have
Thank
yourself
you.
a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good one.
Thank you. Bye.